There's a film called Warm Bodies, set in a post-apocalyptic world where a terrible plague has left the population divided between humans and zombies. One day, one of the zombies, simply called R, sees a woman, Julie, being attacked by another zombie, and he steps in to save her. A friendship begins between them, which eventually grows into love. Through this friendship, gradually R becomes less and less of a zombie. His heart starts beating and he starts to feel things emotionally. Julie realises that love has the capacity to reverse the devastating effects of the plague. She manages to prove this and stop the campaign to kill all the zombies. And gradually, through an intentional strategy of love on the part of the humans, the zombies become human again. I've been thinking about this film as I've been reflecting on Pentecost, which we will celebrate on Sunday. It resonated with me a number of years ago, when I went back to Cambridge for a lecture one May Bank Holiday Monday, given by Professor Tom Greggs from the University of Aberdeen. He was talking about Pentecost as the birth of the church, and he drew attention to the first 2 chapters of the book of Acts. He said that in Acts chapter 1, you see what looks like church. The followers of Jesus gathered together, they prayed together, they had a meeting, they decided they needed to choose another apostle, so they had an election. None of these things are unfamiliar to us in the life of the church today. But Tom Greggs pointed out that what they had was just the semblance of church. The Holy Spirit hadn't yet come in power, the church had not been born. In Acts chapter 1, the followers looked like church. In Acts chapter 2, the Holy Spirit comes to them and they truly become the church. Tom Greggs reminded us that without the power and the indwelling of the Holy Spirit, all we have is the semblance of church. To be the church, the presence and guidance and power of the Holy Spirit is absolutely fundamental. It seems to me that it's more important than ever that we don't lose sight of this. Pentecost has become one of our key Christian festivals, and we often celebrate it with a bit of a jamboree, like we might celebrate Christmas and Easter. But I wonder if, a bit like Christmas and Easter, we might have forgotten part of what it's all about. It's easy to celebrate it, but it's harder to mean it. Of course, we can remember what happened on that first Pentecost after the resurrection. Don't forget that Pentecost was already a long-standing Jewish festival. But it shouldn't just be for us a commemoration of a 2,000-year-old event. Our church life depends upon it. If today we're not open to the guidance and empowering of the Holy Spirit, then we are a zombie church. We might look like the church with our meetings and discussions and even elections, but we're dead. We have no beating hearts, no feeling, no spirit. This year we have to do Pentecost differently. We can't have the usual knees up as we celebrate the birthday of the church, and I think that's probably no bad thing. What we do have is the opportunity to think and reflect and pray, and to ask ourselves some difficult questions, both as individuals and as congregations. Are we alive to the work of the Holy Spirit today? In what ways is this evident? In what ways might we have become zombie Christians in churches? Are there any no-go areas where we do not allow the Holy Spirit to tread? What really holds us together as groups of Christians? And in the past, when we have been able to gather together, could we sense the Holy Spirit working in us and around us in others? Or did it feel as though we were there, but the Holy Spirit had left the building? And do we even care? If our reflecting leads us to acknowledge that there are times when we only have the semblance of being a follower of Jesus, the good news is that it's never too late to change that. The Holy Spirit wasn't just released on the world 2,000 years ago and that's that, but is still alive and active today. She is ambitious and exciting and funny and surprising. She can overwhelm us and take our breath away. She invites us into an adventure which at times may be an adrenaline-charged roller coaster ride, or a hard scrambling up a steep mountainside, perhaps even in a thunderstorm or when it's blowing a gale. Or she's that peaceful sense of homecoming when we find ourselves in our favourite places and among the people we love most in all the world. She is not to be tamed and contained by us and held onto like a pet, and she will not do our bidding. But she will lead us beyond ourselves, beyond our comfort zones, and beyond the barriers we create. She will lead us to do things we never thought possible. She opens us up to love and to give and to be in extravagant ways that far exceed our imagining. If you want a life that is quiet and predictable and respectable, you're not going to get it. But in this crazy, Holy Spirit-filled life, there is also security in the unpredictability. There is comfort in the uncomfortable. There is peace in the whirlwind. There is joy and hope even when we don't see the way ahead. We are held. We are safe. We are loved. Have a think this week about where you are. And have a think about your church and where it is. Try to discern those places where the Holy Spirit runs free. And also those places where we have tried to chain her down, or where she has been ignored and overlooked and unheard for so long that she's quietly slipped away. Offer those things to God, and if you feel able, pray that the Holy Spirit would come and fill and overflow those neglected places in new ways this Pentecost, so that both now in our homes and communities, and maybe one day back in our church buildings, we may know and share the kind of fullness of life and extravagance of love that is her intention for each one of us.